Welcome back, everybody, and I thought we'd make a video here. I'm going to make a more detailed one for my channel members. This is going to be an overview, though, of how you can locate and how you can research penny stocks to invest in before they go parabolic. Now, I did not personally buy this penny stock. However, I do know people on the channel who did. And this stock ended up hitting about $2.50, I think, at the peak. Let me see what the chart's telling us. Intraday, yeah, it looks like 250 was the peak on November 3rd. Now, I announced this play under 10 cents per share on the channel. You can check out my videos. But this is just an example of one that I felt like might do well. Now, for clarity and for context, I've had a lot of bad calls as well. So for every 5 bad calls you're going to get, or for every 5 stocks that don't turn out, or don't go parabolic like this one did, you might have one that does, or maybe for every 9 versus 1. So it's very important, therefore, when you're researching these companies, that you find the ones that have the most potential on the market. Now, in this case, I saw what was happening with the oil wells, and I saw some of the news that was coming out. This is an oil company based out of the Permian Basin. I also figured with the current administration, it's probably going to be more friendly for these types of companies. But this was news really that started sending it parabolic. And, I had discussed it previously before this news came out on the channel. But then when this came out, it was basically hinting at, $1 billion. That's what sent this thing parabolic, basically. But really, before you even get into this, you have to find, this news was not out when I was doing my research on it. So I had to look at previous news and I had to look at previous information. So what I did is I came over to OTC Markets. Now, one of the things that did stand up to me, wrong one. One of the things that did stand out to me about this company was the lower share structure, 38, 39 million shares outstanding here. And so, restricted of 26, unrestricted of 13 million. So what can happen with a company like this? You have an $81 million market cap. Now, when it was trading at 17 cents, that would have been an $8 million market cap. When it was trading at under 10 cents, it would have been under a $5 million market cap, which is where it was. But here's the thing. You can look at a valuation like that, and you can then look at what the news and what the information that was coming out. In fact, if you look at the news in June where the merger was completed, this is what I was originally pointing to, because I said, hey, this might be a good deal. Vision Oil and Gas is an oil and gas operator with over 18,000 acres in the Permian Basin, 6,000 acres in South Texas, and over 416 active or shut-in oil and gas wells. So this right here, this merger news, the stock did not move right away. And so you had this information in front of you for a couple months, but it wasn't until the other news came out that the stock actually started to make a move. So these are things that you need to look for when you're researching penny stocks to invest in that could potentially go parabolic. Now, with this one in particular, you come over to OTC Markets, most of these penny stocks you're going to be able to find right here in the search bar. Just type in the ticker symbol and you can find all the company information, the financials, disclosure. Not all companies will have this updated because the OTC Markets penny stock market is more lax in terms of the regulations. They've gotten stricter in recent years, but they're still pretty lax compared to the NASDAQ stringent requirements that are out there. But when it comes to this, you can look at so the security details. We just went over that, the transfer agent, and all of that information. And then the company profile. So Azure Holdings Group is an acquisition corporation. So focused on oil and gas field services and construction, oil and gas exploration and products, and oil and gas distribution. Azure Holding Group Corp has completed reverse mergers with the following companies: American Industries, Freedom Well Testing, and CST Drilling Fluids. The company has completed a joint venture with Coil Tubing Technologies. The company is currently evaluating mergers with Button Energy. So it goes on, right? The point is, this is what the company's all about. Now, this was a shell holding company. When it says Azure Holding Group Corporation, remember this was like a merger that was completed in June, and here we are with this merger completed. And then the other news that came out in September is ultimately what resulted. This one right here on 9/15 is what resulted in this thing going parabolic. So once this news came out, in fact, if you look at the chart, and why this happens is kind of interesting because you could argue the news from June was very good news, but then you have the news in September that was even better news. So July comes around, August, we're still under 10 cents. And then boom, when this news comes out, it's still under 15 cents. Look what happens here. Right when that news comes out, guys, I mean, the stock climbs a little bit, I guess, up until the 15th. Maybe there was some other news before that, some information that was coming out, some anticipatory things. But we're at 25, 30 cents, and then boom, it goes off to the races at that point. So there's really no stopping it once that news came out. So sometimes it's only one piece of information that really sends a stock parabolic. But and sometimes it's just the timing of the market, the timing of liquidity, the timing of different moves in different sectors. But at the same time, you have to catch these things early. So one other way that I'll look on the breakout boards. This is, if you're looking for penny stocks in particular, breakout boards on InvestorSub, you can see what's actually what people are interested in. And this is a tool to find stocks, because if a stock doesn't have any interest and it's totally dead and nobody knows about it, then why would I want to even take a chance on it? Because most likely it's going to take a very long time for information and enough trust to be built with that company in order for enough people to really push the price higher eventually, for there to be an active market is what I'm saying. So this is where your active markets are going to be in the penny stock market, on the breakout boards, because ultimately what will happen is you have a lot of people interested. They post on the message boards, they're buying the stock, they're selling the stock, whatever. You have some people who don't like the stock, who do like the stock, but they're all on these message boards. The top 33, for example, you can look at this. One of the companies I discussed in the channel here, still, this one shows up every day almost, right? But it shows you there's an active market. There's people interested in the company. And so it's like, this is what you want to look for. Asia Broadband, that one has been a popular one for several years. It's actually a solid company, makes a lot of revenue, trades OTC. This one hit a $1.6 billion market cap in the run-up in 2021. So it's a much lower market cap now, I'll tell you that, but under 100 million. The point is the time and chance, right? This is what you look for. You look for those details. And this is just a brief overview of what I look for, like the tools I use and what I try to find out. I also use charts like TradingView. TradingView charts are going to be there for you, to where you can just come on over here. You can basically type in any ticker symbol if you want to find one for the one we were just talking about, AZRH, the one that went parabolic. Boom. So there it is. There's your parabolic chart. And now you can actually kind of deep dive the technicals more, and you can zoom in here and see exactly what is going on. So with that being said, these are just some of the things. Now, obviously, also with the technicals, like, you don't want to be buying a stock after it's made this big move. That's just dumb, because what's going to happen is people are going to start taking profits. I don't guarantee, but I would guess that this was probably the peak right here, 250, and that it's probably going to trade sideways and eventually come back under $1 per share. That's typically what we see. That's typically how things play out. I'm not saying it's going to happen that way, but you have to look at the technicals as well as the fundamentals. So as you're collecting data, you're collecting information, you're doing a lot of research on the company and finding out what a good opportunity could be. You're reading on the financials, looking at the share structure, looking at the management team and all that kind of stuff. You're also looking at the technicals and you're saying to yourself, this stock is pretty cheap. It has not made a big move and the fundamentals are very good. And we have this going, and there's more contracts, more revenue, more news anticipated. The CEO has hinted at certain things happening. Maybe this could be a good buy. It's in a good sector. It's good timing, right? All these things. But you never want to buy a stock at this point. Now you're the greater fool. You are the wise investor to accumulate at your point of maximum opportunity. And if you look how much this traded in this range for so long. 10 to 12 cents a share. You had a pretty good opportunity, to really load up there. So even getting down, I think it was like 5 cents a share here, 6 cents a share back in June. I mean, this is in June. You guys could have bought this for 6 or 8 cents a share. I could have as well. I can't buy them all. I invest in companies that I can, but sometimes I miss these, right? So this one is just an example of what can happen. One of the things I noticed, though, when that news in June came out, if you look again, just an example of what to look for. I saw this and I thought, that seems like pretty good news. That's a lot of acreage. That's a lot of stuff. And so I decided to make a video on it. Then you have this news that comes out here, 8/26. They have projected revenue. And I think that's really when you started to see kind of an increase right here in terms of once they came out with these revenues. I may have made a video on this one as well. I forget. But it was all of this kind of leading up to it. You have some hints from the CEO. You have this new merger, this new company that came into this shell right here. And boom, then when that news drops on September 15th, it's off to the races. So sometimes, you just have to Anyway, you just have to do your research and you have to be careful. Do your due diligence because you don't want to invest in a company. Like I'm very selective at the ones I actually buy and the ones I actually cover on the channel because I don't want to cover some garbage company that I don't believe is even a real company, or if it is, it's a company that is not of the highest quality and does not have the absolute best standards, best management team, best revenue growth, etc. So I want to find a company that is overall going to be of the highest caliber, right? That's what you're looking for. And also the technicals need to be there too. Because like I said, I'm not going to buy a stock at $2 a share if I could have had a chance to buy it under 10 cents just a couple months ago. That doesn't make any sense. And now I'm the greater fool for buying at $1.75 or $2 or whatever. So, but people are still doing it. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And these are just some of my thoughts on penny stock investing and how to find penny stocks to invest in and to get those large returns. I go to otcmarkets.com. You can basically view any penny stock information on it. Do your research, find a good company. Come on over here, see what stocks are trending. Be careful with this though. Don't jump into the hype. If you see something trending at the top, for example, perhaps it's a sign that this stock has already made a pretty big move. Not always, but you just want to be careful, right? You want to be careful with how you're doing this. This stuff is very volatile, as always. As a reminder, and never invest except based upon your own risk tolerance and investing goals, right? And what you're trying to achieve. Because ultimately, you need to understand that this is all based upon your risk tolerance, your investing goals, your objectives. And so you should always consider that. Talk with a financial advisor if necessary. And anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care out there. And thanks for watching.